the whole world at our feet, watching seasons change. Our roads were lined with adventure, mountains in the way couldn't keep us from the sea. Here we stand, open arms. This is home where we are, ever strong in the world that we made. I still hear you in the breeze, see your shadow
Okay, everyone. Hello and good evening. Let me know if everything works, and I guess we can get going. If you can hear me, I can actually talk about myself. Yep, it works. Perfect. So, good day, everyone, or rather, good evening. Yesterday we ran out of time due to me having apparently too many books. So, yeah, we only went through IT books yesterday and through, well, a couple of soft skill books, like literally 5, I believe. So today I'm just going to finish what I was supposed to do as, you know, the dessert round yesterday, but instead we have to do it today. So yeah, it will be basically fiction books, and by fiction books I mean mostly fantasy books and a couple of science fiction ones. I think like 90% of the books I have are in English, which makes a lot of sense to make this live stream in English. I see there's some chat on the chat about that, but yeah, this makes a lot of sense to do this one in English. And I guess one other note is that while the IT books are like literally my books, all the other books are basically shared with my wife, who is also a book enjoyer and book reader. Actually, well, she's a pro in book reading, while I am an average enjoyer. So, yeah, keep that in mind. There's things which I've read, things which she read, things which we both read, and I can comment only on the things which I did read. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing is that she actually can read in more languages than I can, which means that we might find some books which are in German. I think I didn't make any photos of books which are in other languages. Like I know we have some Japanese ones, but I'm pretty sure I didn't make a photo of these. So yeah, and on top of that, today's moderator is going to be Foxtrot Charlie and Hebi. Both of them, you might be able to see them from time to time on chat. Also, I have absolutely no idea how long will this live stream take, but I just want to do it in one go. While there are more books than they were yesterday, because, well, I have only like made photos of most of the fiction books, but totally not all. I believe there are still more books than I had in IT. On the flip side to that, basically there are a lot of series, which means I can show you 50 books and say, oh, like 2 sentences about it, and that's it. If you have any questions about any of these books, just let me know. And I think that's it, and we can 13 hours. No, it's not going to be that bad. Is it quiet today? Could you let me know if it's quiet today? It should be fine. I can make it a little bit louder, but I'm always a little bit worried about changing the sound level. So let's do this. It should be a little bit louder now, and not a lot, but a little bit. Okay, let me switch to this, and let's I don't know, announcements, same announcements as yesterday. Paged Out Free is out. It's a free magazine for like every enjoyer of IT and electronics, and we have a lot of cool articles there made by a lot of amazing people. It's for free. Like, you don't have to do anything, just go to pagedout.institute and click download, and that's it. There's like no email signed up. It's totally free. Enjoy. And we are also looking for new articles for pagedout #4, like the 4th issue, which will be issued in February, late February. So ideally, please send your one-page articles by the end of January or beginning of February. Everything is written down in the, like if you go to our page, there's this call for pages and writing articles sections. And like everything is written down here, what you need to know in details. You don't have to read everything, but if you do read everything, it will help you a lot. And it's also like, super easy and super fun and super fast to write a one-page article about something you found interesting, something that you think is cool. So yeah, please submit your articles. We already got like a couple of articles after yesterday's live stream, so I believe there is a lot of sense in advertising this. And we have wallpapers. We have really cool wallpapers. This is the wallpaper which you can download for issue number 3. Then we have this wallpaper for issue number 2, which is this amazing cybernetic skull. And this is obviously the famous wallpaper for issue number 1, which you have also probably seen on my like screenshots and like like desktops and so on. Wallpaper for issue number 4 would be amazing as well. Is this Ubuntu FKD? Yes, it is. Will the images be rotatable today? I don't think they are going to be rotatable today either. I apologize for that. I have forgotten totally about that. Okay, let's do this though. And I guess we can get going without further delay. I do believe I need to do this though. Okay, so, well, maybe even a bit larger. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Perfect. This is the first series by Steven Erikson. See, I don't have to rotate this one because there is at least one book which has the spine like large enough to be able to read of it. Steven Erikson has written what I believe the English title is of a series is Malazan Book of the Fallen, and it's a long series of thick books with basically epic fantasy. It's absolutely amazing, the writing style and everything. I know that people get a little bit lost because there are a lot of people in these books basically, and a lot of events, and it's not always like, especially between volumes, it's not always clear what's going on. But at some point the story just do merge, and it's really cool. If you enjoy fantasy and you're not afraid of thick books and a lot of them, then absolutely Malazan Book of the Fallen is something I can recommend. It is more on the harder side of reading, not due to the writing. The writing is pretty engaging, but just due to, yeah, you have to pay attention basically when you're reading it. Do you have language certificates? I have German language certificates on B1, B2 level. That's B1 for writing and B2 for speaking. I don't feel yet I actually am B2 in speaking, but apparently that's what they said. I don't have any English certificates. I've just been learning English like for a long time, and like using it for the last, I don't know, 15 years in my career on a daily basis basically. This is more of the same series basically. One thing to note is that while Steven Erikson is the author of most of them, there's also Ian Esselmont, which is a co-writer for some of these books. Especially Ian handles side stories, some pretty cool ones, like Night of Nights. I really enjoyed this one, but mostly because I really like the Emperor, which this book is about. And this is like even more of these books. So yeah, I think everything came out in this series already. When I was reading it, where it was just like, I don't know, 5 volumes, and the new ones were coming out. I was reading them like literally 20 years ago. Literally 20 years ago. A friend of ours basically recommended it to our our friend group, and yeah, and it's a cool book. Then we have on the left side, see, I don't have to rotate again, lucky me. It would be The Shadow of What Was Lost, an echo of things to come, and the light of all that falls by James Islington, and that's something which has taken me a little bit by surprise. There will be a lot of spoilers today. I will try to keep them light, but this is also a fantasy book, a fantasy series. It's yeah, it would be, I would say, an epic fantasy. One of the themes of the series is basically time travel, and I don't like time travel. Okay, I really despise time travel in TV series, anime, in like books and so on. So I was like, my wife recommended it to me, but I was like, yeah, I'm probably not going to like it. And this is time travel done right. I really enjoyed these books. It's like, if you read anything from Brandon Sanderson, like especially the fantasy books from Brandon Sanderson, you will like it. You will really like it. You will enjoy it. I really liked the characters in this book. It started like a random journey of like a couple of teenagers, but got like really wide at some point with amazing characters, amazing backstories, and with yeah, it's really good. It's really great. I can totally recommend this series. This is one of my favorite series right now, and it also has cool titles. So there we go. Yeah, I didn't enjoy Steins Gate. Sorry, I know that's a classic, but my this book collection is impressive. Imagine against computer game collection. Honestly, my computer game collection is like two shelves, so there's not a lot of it. I had a little bit more, but yeah, like due to moving, I think some of them is still at my parents' house. So I don't have that many physical books. Sorry. And then moving on from this series, there's another huge series. This is by David Weber. It's basically, I believe the whole series is referred to as Honorverse, or like the universe is referred to as Honorverse. This is the series about Honor Harrington, who is a military officer in the science fiction military force. And someone recommended, like, I asked on Twitter a few years back, basically, like, hey, I like military science fiction, can someone recommend something? And a couple of people, like including one of the like main programmers behind AIDA Pro, like recommended this, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to try it, and it hooked me like immediately. I've read everything which came out. Like there's like 15 thick volumes of the main story, and there's I think another 15 volumes of like side stories or like short stories, and I've read everything, like literally everything which came out, apart from comic books, I believe. So I also have some of these nice like leather bound. It's probably like fake leather, but whatever. But not all of them, because yeah, getting them in a decent price is rather hard, and it's rather hard to to buy them. Anyway, if you enjoy military science fiction and with a lot of politics, you will absolutely, well, some politics, you will no. Honestly, a lot of politics and a lot of technicalities being thrown and a lot of technical descriptions of what's actually going on. And with really amazing characters and amazing character development in some cases, you will really enjoy it. The first volume is a little bit like, you can see that the author didn't really know where he's going with the series, and he was like, oh, I'm going to make these funny rubber-like aliens, which I'm also not an enjoyer of rubber-like aliens. So yeah, so there's like, in the first book there's a planet full of them, but then like they get almost never mentioned again in any of the other books, and it moved into like this military conflict, which is pretty great. Yeah, it hooked me. I've reread a lot of them. This is literally my favorite science fiction military series. I can fully recommend it if you enjoy this kind of books. So that's David Weber. The first volume is where's the first volume? The first volume is on Basilisk Station, which is okay. And you're going to hate me for what I'm going to say. Yeah, I don't see it immediately. It's somewhere there. I have like a lot of books from the series, obviously. Anyway, so yeah, but the first volume, it's good to read it anyway, but then honestly, the series picks up after a couple. Like, the longer you're with the series, the better it gets, and it kind of branches out at one point. There's like the main side of the series, but you also have to read these like thick volumes, which are telling you what the other part of the fleet was doing in the same time. Which is, it gets a little bit complicated chronologically if you want to read this. And there are guides, like chronology guides, which I'm not a fan of like reading order guides, because like that makes a simple problem complex. But in this case, yeah, chronology guides kind of save the day. Otherwise, you'll be like, what are these characters talking about? When did this happen? And you find out it happened in like one of the branch stories. And the branch stories are amazing in their own right as well. Usually, the author picks up another person to do that. Like with them, yeah, it's cool. There's like one branch of side stories is basically like spy thriller instead of military science fiction, which is also pretty amazing. But it like fits into the whole narrative and is also really, really important. Also, audiobooks for this series, absolutely amazing. Yeah, I can't recommend it enough. Look for Honorverse, and Honorverse, if you're looking for it, what's the question from chat? Yeah, so look for Honorverse or Honor Harrington series. That's the name of the lead character. There are a lot of really well fleshed out characters in these books, but Honor is the main one. And yeah, she's amazing. I really like her. On Basilisk Station is the first one. My spelling might be wrong. Cool. So let's. This is the last one, by the way, to end in fire. Okay, and then we move to Brandon Sanderson, who is a. Like, if you're into fantasy, you probably know the person. If you're in the internet and you're following internet dramas, you probably also heard of him because of the literally, I think, most successful book Kickstarter campaign of all time. What he did was like amazing because like it was like, you know, end of pandemic, and he like releases this video where he was like a little bit like apologetic because he like lied to fans because he was writing this series, but he was also writing another series, like, and he pulls out another extra book which he's going to publish. And then like, and he's, but yeah, I actually like written another book, and he pulls up a second book which is also written during like the months of a pandemic, and then he does this like 3 more times, so he has written 5 additional books on top of all the series he's writing. Basically it kind of works like this, but he has like, he's a writer, but he has a writing company with a lot of people supporting him, so he can focus on writing. He's writing, telling stories all the time, and there are other people who are doing like checking, continuity checking, publishing stuff, and so on. So he doesn't have to worry about that. He can focus on writing, and he is therefore a very fruitful author and releases a lot. And I was like pretty. He's also the person who, if you heard of or read Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, Brandon Sanderson was the writer who was finishing Wheel of Time, or maybe still finishing. So it's pretty funny. He's pretty entertaining, and he is telling a lot of stories. Now, his books are. He has a lot of different books, and there will be a lot of different books which I can talk about. And he has a lot of different series. Part of these series are in Kashmir universe, I believe that's, or Kashmir or Kashmir. Is like, so a lot of high fantasy books are based in that universe, and they are somewhat connected, not always super connected. Sometimes they just mention they're just like based in the same universe, which is pretty large and pretty interesting. So what we see on the picture is Elantris, which I haven't read. Then there is the Mistborn saga, let's call it the saga Mistborn series. He also, what he likes to do is write a couple of books in a series, like for example 4 volumes, and that's like a whole story. There might be some side stories to it, and then he really likes to write another like 4 or 5 books in about things like new events, new stories which happened in the same universe just like 200 or 1000 years later. So you just like hear references to in the new books to the old books, to the things that happened in old book, but like, you know, like told us from a perspective of, oh, these were like the old heroes of ages, like people who existed but nobody like can really confirm what happened back then. And a lot of things are like, you know, there's a different twist on them. For example, in the Mistborn, like initial Mistborn series, there's like a person who talks with a street slang, basically, and the street slang is pretty funny when you hear it, when you read it. It's pretty funny. And then there's like the other, like this part here, the Alloy of Law, and so on. This is the second series, like, which is happening, I think, like 500 or something years later, or 1000 years later. And the street slang, which was used there for basically comedic purposes, is being referred to as High Imperial or something like that, because that like it was due to some reason used by the Emperor at some point, which is like literally hilarious, and that also adds to the reading pleasure. Now, Mistborn is I can recommend it. It's a pretty cool series. And it's always like in case of Brandon, it's usually like epic fantasy, basically epic high fantasy. So expect not like single stories about one person doing things in their village. Expect like the whole world falling apart and heroes having to save the whole world. This kind of stories. If you enjoy them, I can totally recommend them. Now. You might like what I found a little bit in these books is that like the middle parts were sometimes dragging a lot, honestly. So on audiobook, if you like set the speed to 1.7 or something, it's fine. But if I would be reading it, I might be skipping even some pages. It usually the beginning and the end is worth it, and there's also a lot of great background, and in general, yeah, you'll enjoy it. Also, the magic system and physics which Brandon creates are pretty amazing. So yeah, the Mistborn series, pretty cool. Can totally recommend it. Warbreaker is something I haven't read. These 4 books here are the books which I mentioned from the Kickstarter campaign, which he did, where he has written like 5 books, 5 new books. So like these are 4 of them. Some of them are related to events either from like from Kashmir universe. Basically they fit in well. And then there's also Brandon Sanderson, but it's the Skyward series basically, and Starsight. I think Skyward is the first one. This is military science fiction again. It's more like for young adults, so it's like it's the heroine in this case is a young adult. She's like in this for like refugees basically on a planet which is under constant attack by some unknown enemy forces, and she's like one of like a daughter of a pilot basically, and then a pilot herself, and it's basically military science fiction. It's pretty cool. Then it suddenly switches into a spy thriller, and then it switches again into yet another thing, and then it switches back to military science fiction when you go through the volumes. It's enjoyable. The last Defiant, which is the last volume, came out I think last month or something like that. I read it a few days ago, and it's cool. Like it's fun. It's a fun story basically. In general, with Brandon Sanderson, what you can expect is a great story, and he is a storyteller, and these are stories, and which is a little bit different from like something like Dune, for example, by Frank Herbert, might be a little bit more philosophic. But Brandon Sanderson is a storyteller, basically. He tells a story. The story is amazing, and I wouldn't expect that much depth into it and that much philosophy. This is not what these stories are about. They are entertainment. They're enjoyable. They're cool, and this series is also one of my favorites. It's pretty fun. And then, this is more. This is, I believe, a side story, which is pretty thick as well, but whatever. And these volumes, there's a volume 4 should be standing here, but it's. I think my wife is reading it right now. This is the Stormlight Archive, also by Brandon Sanderson, another series, a pretty epic, pretty amazing series in the Kashmir universe. I can recommend it as well. It has a little bit of a slow start, but then it picks up. So to answer the question from the from the chat, yes, I did read everything which came out from Stormlight Archive. Okay, and now we have Dune, which I mentioned here from Frank Herbert. I think we have a couple of copies of Dune. I'm not sure. I haven't read everything from Dune. I read everything from Dune, which was written by Frank Herbert. So the backstory there is that this is like a pretty old science fiction, which initially was, let's say, a mix of military science fiction and which kind of switched into politics, into fantasy, and then that was the first volume. Then there were more politics, and then it got weird. And then the author died, sadly. And then his son found, I think the story goes that his son found some manuscripts in like some what's it called, like safe, like vault, and continued writing with another person. So I read all the original volumes, and part of what Frank Herbert's son has written. And it, honestly, I'm a huge fan of the first book. Like Dune itself, you probably know about the new movie is coming out. It had, I think, 2 more movie adaptations before that. One was like a TV series, which was like, I think, 3 really long episodes, which was pretty cool. And before that was one which was done by, I don't remember the name of someone on the chat, please tell me. It was pretty old, and there were some changes with like sound modules and stuff. And it was still enjoyable, but it wasn't like a perfect adaptation. Anyway, the new adaptation has come out a few years ago. The first part of this book was made into a movie, and now soonish, in a couple of months, I think the second part will come out. I've heard great things about this movie. I haven't watched it yet because I'm waiting for the second part to come out, basically. David Lynch, thank you very much. I spoke. Absolutely, I meant David Lynch initially. Now, you probably know, unless you have been living under a rock, that Dune is about, like, let's say, a battle for a planet which is a desert planet, but there's a lot of valuable substance there. And there's basically like 2 factions of an imperium are fighting for control of that planet, and then some locals are also getting involved. And this is the most spoiler-free way I can talk about it, because like it's not really even a good description which I just gave you. I've read this book when I was still in primary school, I believe, like 5th grade or something like that. I was just getting into reading, and a friend of mine, like his older brother, recommended Dune to me, and I really enjoyed it. And one of the reasons I read it was also because they got a game. I saw a game based on this book, which was called Dune, just Dune. It was a Microsoft DOS and Amiga game, which was a mix between strategy and I guess like adventure game, you can say, maybe point and clicky a little bit at some places. It was a unique kind of game. It was pretty amazing. And I really loved the game. I really loved the graphics and like everything about it. So that was literally the first game I bought, Dune. And here's a little bit spoiler. In Poland, before 1994, there were no software copyright laws, which meant like everyone just was pirating games, and that was legal. And then this law came out, and so this was the first game I bought, which was totally worth it. This is still one of my favorite retro games. Well, now retro games. There came actually like 2 versions of this game, like one which was on 3 floppy disks, and then there was a better one which was on a CD with a pretty amazing soundtrack. So actually, the soundtrack was amazing, and there was also another CD with the soundtrack recorded by re-recorded basically for the game, which was also came out, which was also pretty amazing. And it was a fun game. Also, the funny story there is that I think the game was released, and after a couple of months, suddenly Dune 2 is released. Like, this doesn't happen, but like 2 games, 1 and 2 are released one after the other. But the second game suddenly is totally different. It's like a real-time strategy, like basically the mother of real-time strategies as we know them now. That was the game which defined Warcraft, Warcraft 1, 2, 3, StarCraft 1 and 2, and like Command and Conquer and so on. And the story there was that the publisher approached 2 companies about making a Dune game, and they got like 2 ideas pitched to them, and the publisher said, yeah, we're going with this one. But the other company was still making the game, and then they like come to the publisher and say, yeah, we have this game finished, and the publisher suddenly gets like 2 games finished, and both games are pretty amazing, so they published both games as Dune 1 and Dune 2, which is pretty funny. In Poland with Dune there were like 2 competing translations, and it's kind of funny because my wife read one and I read the other, and we still cannot agree to what is the proper terminology for Dune when we speak in Polish, which is kind of funny. But yeah, there's basically like one translator, or was one translator in Poland for who did a lot of these like Tolkien and Dune and so on, who really liked to translate names, and the other translators didn't translate names or translated them in a little different way, and that's why we have this like naming drama. Then Dune gets weird, and honestly, I haven't read everything which came out. I've heard that now the story is complete, and I also learned what the story is about and why is it weird, and it makes sense. It's a little bit too hard science fiction for me, but yeah, like if you enjoy it, that's great. To each their own, right? Okay, on the left side we have Annie Bishop, and this is okay. Part of them is like these ones are in Polish, and these ones are in English. I'm pretty sure we have all of them in English. Anyway, that would be the Black Jewels trilogy. I believe I read these books in Polish, English, and some of them in German. It's one of my all-time favorite fantasy series. The magic system is like pretty unique, and the whole world is pretty unique basically. But the story is more like it's hard to say. It follows basically, it's not like an epic story. It more like follows a couple of people, and like the events are pretty localized, or some of them having pretty wide impact. The characters are absolutely amazing, and there's a lot of comedy in these books. There are some darker sides of these books as well, honestly, not gonna lie, but there are some, like, the characters are amazing, and I really love them. And it's also, like, some, like, romantic stories there, and, like, yeah, they're really enjoyable. It's, like, comfort reading for both me and my wife, some of these books. Especially like the Stellardrone Lady and the Shadow Queen. I think we read these a lot of times. These are supposed to be side stories, but we really enjoy them. Okay. Then I have no idea what books are these, because I haven't read them. My wife says that they are being like pretty hot fantasy, but I literally have no idea. So I cannot tell you about them. Also because this isn't the spine, this is like the actual artwork on the paper side of it. So I don't know. It looks cool though, right? After 15 years, I finally know how Ginvey looks like. Well, I have a lot of live streams and public appearances, so I guess that's not hard. How? Well, okay, that makes sense. Never mind. I have no idea what are these ones either, so let's just skip them. And I have not gotten to these ones yet. These are Gen Lions, The Ruin of Kings. No, I'm lying. I have read at least two of them. Yeah, I have read the two first ones, and just like 2 months ago or something. The Ruin of Kings and The Name of All Things. This is, again, if you enjoy Brandon Sanderson, read this. Especially if you liked Stormlight Archive and so on. You will enjoy these. It's a little bit confusing because they switch between times, as in like either were telling about what's happening now or what was happening like some time ago or what was happening even further before then. But the story itself and the world building is pretty cool, and there are a lot of really fun characters in these books. So I can recommend them. They were like, some of the story is, but just some of the story is similar to what I've shown you before, the Echo of Things to Come and so on, The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Illington. There are some like similarities in the story, just some. Like, these aren't books which are identical by any means or even like super similar. There are some elements. So if you enjoyed the stories by James Illington, you will like these ones as well. I still need to read the 3 other ones, so I haven't gotten to them yet. Okay, then we switch to another bookshelf, which is these are like some old books which we got when visiting London with a friend. Is he on chat today? I haven't seen him yet. He was yesterday. So, but I think we can skip this because it's like Robin Hood and so on, classics, I guess. And I don't believe we read these books. These are pretty old books, and in London there are like some really old, like rather bookstores with really old books. And yeah, if you like old books, like, you know, these classics which have like, I don't know, 100 years, yeah, like they have a lot of them in English. Okay, then what we have here is Annie Rice, The Vampire Chronicles. You probably have heard about the movie Interview with a Vampire. It's based on one of the stories in the Vampire Chronicles. I believe a couple of other movies also came out. I did enjoy both the movies, and I really enjoyed the Vampire Chronicles altogether. I haven't read all of them, but yeah, if you like good vampire stories, absolutely go for them. Like for Annie Rice, it's a classic basically. Then we have Sherlock Holmes, I guess like classic, right? I've read Sherlock Holmes and I can absolutely recommend it. Read Sherlock Holmes, the original, especially if you enjoyed the newer movies, the ones which came out like, I don't know, 10 years ago with Robert Downey Jr. He portrayed the book Sherlock Holmes perfectly. And they are amazing. Like, totally read Sherlock Holmes. Some of the plot twists are like, wow, I did not see that coming. It's fun. Then there's a couple of other classics which I haven't read, I'm sorry to say, like The Pictures of Dorian Gray, Frankenstein, and Dracula. I haven't read them. Speaking of Dracula, I heard there is like, or was it Frankenstein? No, I think it was Dracula. One of these apparently had a fanfic translation into one of the Nordic languages. So the story is that the translator, like, you know, 100 years ago or so, took the story and decided, it's okay, but I'm going to fix it. And therefore, for that country, there was what was published as the original Dracula was actually fixed by the translation version, which went a little bit differently. The story was changed and things were changed. So apparently there are like two versions of this book, which is kind of funny. I haven't read either of them though, so I will get there eventually. I also I haven't read The Count of Monte Cristo, which is another classic. So let's continue. Then we have Tolkien. Obviously, I read Tolkien. I read it in primary school. I need to probably reread it because it has been ages ago. There is a lot of Tolkien on my bookshelves. I know that he didn't actually write so many books, but we have a couple of copies, both in English and in Polish, I believe. So yeah, Tolkien classic. If you heard about Tolkien, everyone heard about Tolkien. Enough said. Then I don't believe I have read any of these three, so I'm going to skip them. And then we have more books which I haven't read. Yeah, I have no idea. I'm just going to skip. Skipping these ones. And I have to skip these ones as well because I haven't read them. More Dune. This is Polish translation of Dune with really amazing illustrations, honestly. Like, this edition of Dune was pretty cool and was published in Poland. And here we have... I think I've read it, but it was a long time ago and I cannot tell you anything about it, so let's just continue. Then Michael Sullivan. I haven't gotten to Michael Sullivan yet. My wife recommends it, but yeah, I still need to get to it. Oh, these ones are funny. These ones are basically Chinese fantasy. It's either Wuxia or Xiangxia, I believe. And there is a publishing house which has, like, in the last couple of years started publishing that, like, Chinese fantasy, basically. And what I really liked about these is, I haven't read The Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, but I did watch the TV series, which is called Untamed, which is a Chinese TV series with actors. And I also watched the anime for this, which is also called Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. And it's honestly one of my favorite TV series ever. Like, it was kind of funny because I think I knew my wife read this and I sent her, hey, there's a TV series. And then I was like, a few years back, I was like learning to my driver's license for the theoretical exam, and she's like, "Hey, I think you need to watch the TV series with me." So I said, "Yeah, let's just like play one episode," and it like hooked me so much. We watched everything, and I was basically like, I was supposed to be learning for the exam. Thankfully, I passed it anyway pretty well, but I wasn't like sleeping enough in that period. If you enjoy like slow burning, kinda localized fantasy in typical Chinese fantasy settings, with with cultivation and so on, you will enjoy Untamed, the TV series. It's kind of low budget when it comes to fight scenes, but the chemistry between the two leads is amazing. Like, I really enjoyed it. So it's really cool. Now, the Heaven Official's Blessing is an anime also, which is coming out right now. But the second season is just coming out. I'm waiting for it to finish coming out, and then I'm going to also watch it. I did enjoy the first season. It's like a little bit slow, but it's pretty fun. If you haven't ever read anything like or seen anything from the Chinese fantasy style, then there are some TV series available, really well done, available on YouTube for free. I think they kind of have a funny model where the like last episode might be paid, but everything else is for free. So if you get hooked and you like want to see the ending, you have to actually pay. But you can check it out, and there are some really good ones. Cassandra Clare, City of Bones, and so on. The Mortal Instruments, the Infernal Devices. I've read these. It's basically young adult fantasy, focusing on a group of young heroes. Let's say like this is like also urban fantasy, meaning it's like kinda happening nowadays, but like there are vampires and werewolves and whatnot. In general, the world created here, the magic system, and some other things, the characters, pretty amazing. I really enjoyed it. But there are some like, there's a lot of romantic story behind this book, or rather, like in these books, which are a little bit convoluted and a little bit dragged out and a little bit weird at points. And I prefer it to just focus on the fantasy part, because that's the part which I really enjoyed and worked really well. And this isn't because I have anything against romantic stories. It's because I think that's not the strong point of these books. They're pretty cool. If you enjoy like young adult fantasy genre, then yeah, it's absolutely fine. It's pretty well known as well. More of them. I don't believe I read these. Sorry for the like image quality. My hand was probably shaking. I haven't read these ones, so I cannot tell you anything about them. From this, I have not read some German ones. Silber, das erste Buch der Träume. Okay, no, I haven't read these ones, so no idea. More Dune, like another Dune. City of Blaze, City of Stars. I haven't read these ones yet, I believe. My wife recommended them and said they are cool. And then we have, Ursula K. Le Guin, The Left Hand of Darkness. This is one of the books from the Witch World, which is a rather old fantasy series. I tried reading it recently, but it was one of the initial genre-defining series, basically, but it's kinda old nowadays. I didn't enjoy it that much. If I would read it in like the 90s, I would greatly enjoy it. Nowadays, it's like I'm used to a little bit different style. And then we have a classic, hard science fiction classic, which is Roadside Picnic by Arkady and Boris Strugatsky. If you enjoy hard fantasy, you probably read it. If you haven't, this is what the Stalker series is loosely based on. And there's also an anime which is loosely based on this, which was pretty fun, honestly. I can recommend this one. It's pretty short, but it's a classic. I did enjoy it. It's also a bit depressing because it happens in Russia, or rather like what was before Russia. So yeah, but it's a good book. Like yeah, but it's hard science fiction. And then we have something which I guess more people will know: Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where all the like 42 jokes come from. Restaurant at the End of the Universe. It's more like comedic science fiction, like keyword being here comedic. There's a lot of funny gags and so on. It's not fully my sense of humor. If you have read Terry Pratchett, you will enjoy it. Absolutely. It was fine. Like, I don't fully enjoy this kind of humor, but yeah, no shame in reading it, absolutely. And if you enjoy this kind of humor, you will have a really good time. Yeah, then we get to, on the left side, we have Will White, who has written, I think, like 3 series, which I read. One is the first series, I believe, was this one here, The City of Light, The Crimson Vault, and House of Blades. I don't remember which one was the first one, honestly. Yeah, this one, okay. House of Blades was the first one, the first book in the series. It's a short... it's like this. If you enjoy Dragon Ball and like shonen anime style, read books by this guy, because you will enjoy them. It's like fantasy, but it's progressive fantasy. Progression fantasy, meaning that you have a hero who is usually like a nobody at the beginning, and then he is like progressing to being this like super powerful dude. It's there's a lot of really fun, well fleshed out characters, really unique ones, and a lot of fights, and it's enjoyable. It's like you don't read these books because they have deep meaning. You read them to enjoy the story, and you will enjoy the story. Now for his second series, which is The Elder Sea, I believe it's called. He did a really unique thing. As you can see, these books are like dark and light at the like. This one is light, this one is dark, and so on, right? And this is because for every story, he has written the same story, about the same story, from 2 different perspectives, from 2 different factions. One is like from a perspective of an assassin, basically, who's like doesn't have too much empathy and is a little bit sociopathic, but she's really cool. And the other side of the story is like a guy who wants to become the emperor and is a captain of a ship, but it's not so easy as I'm telling it. And it's pretty good. If you like Cthulhu, if you write like Lovecraft, you will enjoy it, because the world in the series is like really Lovecraftian, and therefore, yeah, it's like you will like it. You'll like it. I did enjoy it. I really liked this series. And then we get to his main series, which just finished last year, I believe, which is the Unsouled, Soulsmith, Black Flame Empire, and so on and so forth. There's like, I think, 9 volumes of that, which is a typical progression fantasy, kinda based in the Chinese Xiangxia-like world. But it's like it was clearly inspired by it, but it's not. It's not there. He like Will White made his own spin on this, and yeah, the first volume might not hook you, but if the first volume at the end doesn't hook you, well, if the first volume hooks you, it will hook you at the end, and then not let you go until you read everything. The characters are absolutely amazing. If you enjoyed like stuff like shonen anime like Dragon Ball, like Hunter x Hunter, like what else, like Naruto, for example, you will love these books. Like Lyndon is absolutely amazing, and there are so many great characters in these books. Like, yeah, I can totally recommend Will White, Unsouled, and so on. This series isn't really China. This series is China. So like the left series, The Elder Sea, is Lovecraftian, and yeah, the other series, like the new series, was. It's not the new. He has already a new series because he's writing a lot. He's like new Brandon Sanderson, honestly. Yeah, and this one is like it. Like kind of Chinese fantasy-like settings. You will see, like, when you start reading and you're a little bit familiar with like Wuxia, with Xiangxia, you will see immediately that, like, yeah, this is this is an obvious inspiration. Especially that even I think some names are like characters of like part Chinese, part not Chinese names. Oh, this one is fun. Annette Marie. It's I'm not going to say young adult fantasy because that's not true. It's a little bit like older like adult fantasy, but it's localized. It's urban fantasy. It's happening in the modern world in Vancouver and in Canada, and they're like, you know, like vampires, werewolves, this kind of stuff. But this is written, the main series is written from a perspective of a bartender, or rather a human bartender with no magical powers, who suddenly stumbles into this whole magic world. It's absolutely amazing. I read it multiple times. The main protagonist in the main series is like, I love her. She's absolutely amazing. And I can recommend it. I've read everything which came out, and it's pretty great. So it's basically like the main series, and then there are like 3 other side story series which are also amazing. There's one when, like, spoiler alert, there's like a young girl, like, I don't know, like 16 or something, whose parents just died, and she's in her evil uncle's house, locked up, because he doesn't want to give her like her parents you know, stuff which belongs to her from the will. And then she finds out, like, this is happening during the first chapters, and she's finding out that he actually is a demon summoner, which like is a profession for summoning demons for money. And like basically he just summoned a demon, but is having problems like binding a contract. And then like an associate of the uncle wants to kill her, basically. So she jumps into the circle with the demon and signs a contract with the demon, which is absolutely ridiculous. Which is like, he is going to protect her in exchange for her baking cookies for him. And yeah, like, the story gets, it's amazing. It's I can totally recommend it. It's like comfort reading, basically. There's a lot of amazing characters in this. So Annette Marie, please check the reading order and like which series is the first. But it's pretty good. It's really good. Okay, let's reset the stream. Okay, there we go. Let me know if it fixed. Yeah, I see it's fixed the camera. Okay, so yeah, and it's fast reading, and also audiobooks for this series are really good. Totally, you will enjoy it. And it's easy reading. These books don't have deeper meaning. Okay, I did mention Ursula Le Guin, and now we get to Mercedes Lackey, who is another of these old school fantasy authors. She's been writing for years. I got into fantasy also due to her books. Like, and that was kind of by accident. I can say. It's basically like she, when I was like still in, I think in my primary school, I was like, I read Tolkien already, I read Dune, and I was like, yeah, I could read something more from fantasy. And I went to a store and like, hey, this book has a nice cover, right? And the cover had absolutely nothing to do with the story, as I later found out, but the cover was really nice. And it turned out that the book is actually in the Mage Wind series. That was the Wind of Fate, the first one. Yeah, sorry, the photo is really bad. And I got hooked. Like, I really enjoyed the universe which she created. It's called Valdemar. It's really cool. And then a friend recommended me some other books, and I didn't realize it's the same author. And apparently it was like the this one, The Last Herald Mage of Valdemar, which is like Mage's Pawn and so on. I've read them and I was like, yeah, that's amazing stuff. I really enjoyed it. And I think I read most of everything which came out, unless there are some stories which came out in the last decade when I haven't read them. It's again, it's old, like old school of writing, fantasy. So it's more like if you enjoyed stories written in the 70s, 80s, 90s, this kind of style, you will enjoy it. Otherwise, you might see like a theme basically, which you might not enjoy. Because there are like really the schematic for every book is kind of the same. Still, I liked them. The characters are pretty cool as well. So yeah, I can recommend. Okay, then we go to the manga version of Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, which I already talked about. I haven't read these ones, and I haven't read these ones. And Joe Abercrombie, I started reading some books by him, but I don't have an opinion yet. There's more of that. My wife really recommends it. I think I read one book, but I don't remember which one. Yeah, so let's skip Joe Abercrombie for now. I need to read more of that. Scott Lynch, I haven't. More Tolkien, and then we have another book which I haven't read, so we can skip that. Then we have The Witcher series. This is one of the Polish editions. I really like The Witcher series. I read it when it was coming out, when I was still in my primary school. I think I started reading from the second volume of the main series, and yeah, I got hooked immediately. Like the thing is, however, but I'm not sure how the English translation is. I haven't read the English translation. The Polish version, the original, was written in basically like this old. We call it in Poland Sienkiewiczowski Polski, which is like a special style of prose, of text written in a little bit older style, but really, really good, really, really enjoyable. Basically, the language layer of these books is absolutely amazing. A lot of comedy, a lot of dark stuff as well, because this is kind of grim fantasy at the end of the day. It's different from the games, but if you played Witcher 3 and like think about the story there, the story in the main series is even a little bit more convoluted, while the short stories which come chronologically before that are like kinda monster of the week, as my wife likes to call it. I haven't read the new books which came out. However, if you read the Witcher series, know that there is also a short story which got published online by the author, which was called Coś się kończy, coś się zaczyna, Something Ends, Something Begins, which is basically a happy ending to the books, because the books don't have a happy ending, and this, like, he also published a happy ending, which is pretty cool, pretty fun, and like it's like it has a great comedic value to it. Yeah, I can recommend Witcher. It's really good. So yeah, and I'm pretty sure I also have some more books with author, like signatures of the author. He's he's pretty interesting person, basically. Anyway, let's continue. Then we have something which was recommended by one of my moderators, KrzaQ, who isn't here with us today, but he recommended Jim Butcher the Dresden Files series. I honestly thought when reading Dresden Files, when you said like, "Hey, read Dresden Files," I was like, "Hey, is this about like the German town, which is like not super far from where I live?" And apparently, it's not. It's about a detective, mage detective or wizard detective rather, Harry Dresden, who lives in Chicago. So it's like it's a kind of modern urban fantasy. It's absolutely amazing. Like yeah, if you enjoy urban fantasy, this is what you want to read. Like, it got me hooked. I read everything which came out. I really like it. There are a lot of really good characters. The world building is also pretty amazing, and it always keeps you on the edge, basically. Because while the protagonist gets more and more powerful, and like builds a reputation for himself during these books, he also is facing like not easy problems all the time. I can fully recommend Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. Amazing stuff. Then Robin Hobb. I've read some books by Robin Hobb. I am still not sure if I enjoyed them or not, so let's just skip them. I have not read any of these. And here we go. What do we have here? Broken Earth. I haven't read Broken Earth trilogy. I've heard my wife says good things about it, so I need to still read it. Legend of Drizzt. Drizzt, if you ever played Dungeons and Dragons, or like, I don't know, Baldur's Gate 1, you know who Drizzt is. Drizzt is this dark elf, and there are a lot of books about his adventures by R.A. Salvatore. It's like simple fantasy. It's basically Drizzt being this absolutely amazing warrior, goes somewhere, kills 1,000 enemies, and is really fun, and he's really cool. And that's basically it. And yeah, if you want just some simple reading, and then yeah, totally read Drizzt, the stories about Drizzt. That being said, the prologue to Drizzt, the first 3 volumes are a little bit deeper and a little bit better, I would say. But yeah, I like Drizzt. Fun stuff. I haven't read August Kitko, so Master of Jin I haven't read. Peace on Turmoil either, so I'm not sure. Oh yeah, hello Gideon. Tamsir Muir. Gideon the Ninth is the first book. Harrow the Ninth is the second book, and Nonna the Ninth is the third book, and the fourth book will be coming out soonish. I have a love and hate relationship with these books, honestly. It's what my wife says is necromancers in space. So it's like science fiction, but with necromancers. Best edition of necromancers I've seen in all books, in any books, absolutely. Especially that the protagonists are necromancers. And Gideon, who is like this warrior who is tasked with protecting a next necromancer who she absolutely despises, is an amazing character. And then it gets weird. Like the first volume is like, after reading the first volume, is like, it's this like multiple warriors slash actually teenagers are locked up on this kinda space station vibe place where they have to solve mysteries and reasons, and by the way they want to kill each other. And yeah, whoever wins, whoever remains, and whoever like solves the riddle at the end becomes this like a great necromancer thingy. And then you switch into the second book and everything is flipped on you. And suddenly you like, there's a whole new perspective added, a whole new problem. And there's also a backstory about the necromancer emperor and how the whole necromancy started from like a normal Earth. There was normal Earth, and then suddenly necromancy started, was like invented by scientists basically. And then the emperor was basically kinda in the middle of things. And by the way, did you hear that cows have feelings? And but you will get that joke if you've read like the series basically. It's yeah, it's kind of you have the feeling that you kind of trying to piece what is going on, and you kind of are succeeding, and then the author like flips the script on you. So I have a love and hate relationship with these books. I've read them, and I'm not sure if I'm angry or happy that I read them. I can recommend them. It's interesting. At least it's interesting. Then we have Will White, which I already talked about. These are like this like Unsolved series, which is amazing. But we talked about it. And then we go to Rachel Aaron, which is a series about dragons. That's urban fantasy about dragons. All the titles are basically puns on something. I really like the one, but like no good dragon goes unpunished. It's like this. There are dragons in the world and other like deities and stuff in like modern world basically. And the dragons are like a pretty politically influential force. They have a lot of money because they are dragons, and they're super powerful because they are dragons, and they're like dragon clans, a couple of them. And every dragon is basically interested in money, power, politics, and killing others. And that's basically what dragons are interested in. And the stories are about a protagonist who is trying to be a good dragon, like, you know, with having morals and ethics. And he's having a hard time, basically. And there's like some also world-ending story happening in the background. I did enjoy it. There are some really good characters there, and some really annoying characters as well. So it's an interesting series. Yeah, it's. I'm not sure I'm going to reread it, but it's not bad either. The world building is pretty cool. Now I think this is like the second series in the same universe which came out. First one is Minimum Wage Magic, and my wife says it's really good, so I need to read it. Yeah, I am going to read it, absolutely. I read everything from the first series as well, even though sometimes I was really annoyed with some characters. I haven't read TJ Klune, I'm sorry, not speaking about it. Then we have, the old school fantasy. No, not fantasy, sorry, science fiction. The Stainless Steel Rat by Harry Harrison. It's one of these science fiction books which were written around like 80s, I guess, like 80s, 90s, early 90s. It has a lot of comedic value. The protagonist there is a person who basically steals money from banks in the galaxy, right? And it's a mix of science fiction and like, I would say comedy. It has a great comedic value to it. It's really fun to read. It's a page turner, basically. It's really fun to read. Like the things which are happening to, but it's not like a silly comedic. It's just like, yeah, this guy's trying to like do something like save the world, for example, right? But the way he thinks about things and like his plots and things, the way he does things, he's like, yeah, he's pretty gutsy and it's pretty funny. His like morals and moral thoughts are also pretty hilarious at points. I can recommend it, but it is like this older style of writing. So yeah, it's also schematic, as in like there's the intro, then the hero does something, the protagonist does something, then he gets in trouble, and then magically somehow he gets out of the trouble or gets saved. So it's kind of the same schematic in all of these. But I really enjoyed it. I read it also when I was like in primary school, I believe, and I had fun. I haven't read the Tavis Baldry Legends and Lattes book. My wife highly recommends it. This guy, if you are listening to audiobooks, you will know this name because he usually reads audiobooks. He's like the voice actor who is reading audiobooks, and he's really good at his job. I've listened to multiple of his audiobooks basically, and he decided also to write a book, and my wife speaks really highly of it. Okay, haven't read this one. Annette Marie, I haven't read these ones either. And I haven't read this ones, and I haven't read this ones either, so sorry, I cannot tell you anything. Harry Potter, everyone knows what Harry Potter is, I'm going to skip it. I did enjoy it. I did like it. I haven't read these ones, and then we have Stephanie Meyer Twilight series. I really enjoyed it. I read it in a couple of times in Polish, English, and also partly in German. I like it. It's like a romantic story with vampires. And yeah, it's fun. It's fun to read. But it's like, it doesn't focus on fantasy and focuses on romance, basically. But maybe the last volume is a little bit more fantasy. More Brandon Sanderson, which I haven't read. This is like more like stories for children. My wife recommends them, but I decided not to read them since I don't enjoy stories for children that much. More Harry Potter. There is a lot of Harry Potter probably on my books. I haven't read these ones either, and more Brandon Sanderson. This is, yeah, I cannot say anything about this, I haven't read it. Then we have Terry Pratchett. A lot of Terry Pratchett. My wife is a Terry Pratchett enjoyer. She really loves it. I read multiple books from Terry Pratchett when I was on my university, and I really enjoyed it then. Currently, I'm a little bit tired of that kind of humor, but like if you enjoy it, that's great. To each their own. And there are some really good books and some really great commentary by Terry Pratchett to like the world in general. So yeah, I can recommend it. Like, it's classic, right? Like it's pretty cool. It has a great comedic value as well. And Death, like the Death character, is amazing. A Mortuary Project, I believe. And you guessed it, Mortuary Project. Okay, then we have more books which I have no idea about. Yeah, I just know Neil Gaiman's Stardust because I saw the movie a couple of times and that's it. I haven't read anything by Neil, and maybe I should. I know he's really active in the social media and like posts a lot of interesting stuff, so I heard good things about him as a person. I probably should like also go through go through his books at one point. I haven't read anything from this. And I believe I haven't read anything about this either. My wife really recommended this Red Sister, Grey Sister, Holy Sister series. I haven't read it though. Okay, did I read anything from this? Negative on that. Tad Williams is also a classic, but I also haven't read it. Yeah, we were skipping a lot of shelves, thankfully, for like due to time, which is good. I also don't believe I read any of these, so skipping them. Robert Jordan, Wheel of Time. I have not read Wheel of Time yet. I'm kinda... it's on my list, but I also know that's like it's time commitment because it's basically a lot of it. So yeah, I am going to read it someday. I haven't just gotten to it yet. And actually, I believe that's it. So we are free. Dobby is free. And I think that's it. Which means that I can officially say that, yeah, okay, I went through all the books which I have, well, not all, okay, through the important books which I have on my bookshelves. And therefore, we can meet, I guess, next year and go through it again with all the new additions and stuff I will read over this year and buy over this year, as I usually do. But yeah, that was fast, I agree. That was just an hour, so it was way faster than yesterday. So few published authors. Yeah, I think we read, like, with my wife, more Polish authors, but like, for example, I read a lot of Joanna Chmielewska. She was writing these either like kind of slice of life, but also a lot of detective stories, which also young adult detective stories, which I was reading in my primary school. I really enjoyed Joanna Chmielewska, but I don't believe we have anything from that. One thing which I didn't make a photo of was Margarit Sandemo. I don't know what's the English title. The Polish title was Saga o ludziach lodu, and which was like a story about like ice people or something like that, which is like 100-ish, 120 volumes of rather thin books, honestly. Most of them are like adventure with some romantic elements, and then there are like two more side stories or spin-off stories. One was about a mage and his family, and another one like Kingdom of Light or something like that. I've read, I think I read around like 50 volumes, maybe less, maybe 40 volumes of these books. They're pretty cool. Margaret Sandemo, however, is from some Nordic country, I believe. I haven't read Dukai. I know my wife read Dukai. Then I also read a couple of other... Oh, yeah. Why don't I have a photo of these books? Algorytmy wojny, Algorithms of War, Michał Cholewa. It's also one of my favorite military science fiction stories. I don't believe it was translated to English. If it wasn't, that's a shame, because these stories are absolutely amazing. It's top-notch military science fictions with plot twists which are mwah. Like Michał Cholewa. He's, by the way, like an IT guy from profession, but also, yeah, like a science fiction writer. He knows how to make plot twists and how to do military science fiction. Absolutely amazing. If you know Polish, you can buy them from the I think Warbooks is the publisher. Algorytmy Wojny is the name of the series. Absolutely amazing. Then, did I read anything else from Polish authors? Nothing more comes to my mind immediately, but doesn't mean I probably read like a lot more, but just like nothing which we have on our bookshelf. We usually keep only books which either of us enjoyed. So there might be some books which we're like, yeah, we probably don't want to keep it because it was okay. So there we go. Cool. I'm going to go through the chat if there are any questions. How much do you read a day? Usually I listen to audiobooks when I'm doing like going for a walk or doing shopping or like doing, cleaning the apartment and stuff like that. So that's usually like give or take at least an hour a day, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes two. Okay, let's go from the beginning of the chat. Okay. I think I answered these ones. Have you tested like heroic fantasy role-playing war game Dungeons and Dragons? I did play RPGs when I was I guess when I was like in high school, in primary school, end of primary school, beginning of high school, something like that. We played a lot of role-playing games with my friends. Nowadays I haven't. I also played a little bit when I was in my university, but I haven't in years. Have I tried to watch One Piece? I haven't. My wife started watching it and she likes it. What am I using for audiobooks? Audible. Yeah, I'm using Audible. Audible is like pretty cool, I guess. And honestly, there isn't much choice. They kind of have a monopoly nowadays. Hey, Mafus, how are you? What else do we see here? Do I prefer Stormlight Archive or Mistborn? Sanderson fans are basically in two camps and argue about it. From Giovanni, a question. I honestly enjoyed both kind of the same. I think the story in Stormlight is a little bit more mysterious for me, but I did enjoy both. Yeah, I'm not going to choose, I think. I think the characters, however, from Mistborn were a little bit more fun. There are really good characters in Stormlight Archive as well. Some I really enjoy, but I think there were like, if I would have to count how many amazing characters are in Mistborn and in Stormlight, both of these have amazing characters. I think Mistborn had a little bit more, and at least that's what my memory tells me, and I might be mistaken here. Yeah, I didn't go through mangas. They're like I've read a lot of them as well over the years. So yeah, like if I can recommend some, for example, Promised Neverland was pretty amazing. The anime, the first season was amazing. The second season wasn't great, but the manga is better, honestly. So that's one. Then classics like Death Note. For anime, I really enjoyed 12 Kingdoms. It's one of my all-time favorite animes. It's this like fantasy, politics, with ancient China-ish like setting. It's really good. 12 Kingdoms. It's rather old anime though. Okay, I think that's it. So thank you everyone for being here, and I think that's it for like non-technical topics for this year. So the next live stream is going to be with a technical topic, and we are going back to IT. So thank you, have a great evening, and see you in, I guess, a couple of days. Take care, bye bye.